Good afternoon, everybody. Eddie Webb. We are here at the New Media Lab at Mesa Community College. Today, we have some remarkable guests. We've been trying to put this show together for at least 3 years. We have the FEC leadership for our faculty across all 10 colleges at Maricopa Community College. And I'm going to ask each one of them to introduce themselves.
Hey there, I'm Matt Jolly. I'm currently the FEC and Faculty Association President-elect and will assume the president role in May. God help me. And I teach at Gateway Community College, where I've also been a Faculty Senate President. I co-chaired the Committee on Academic Freedom for 6 years and have also served on RFACT.
I'm Ryan Woodrum. I am from Chandler Gilbert Community College, and I teach chemistry there. I am the Faculty Senate President and an FEC member.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Linda Manning. I am the Faculty Senate President-elect at Estrella Mountain Community College. I am also an FEC member and an FA member. Happy to be here.
Hello, all. Karina Sokol. I serve currently as the Faculty Senate President at Glendale Community College. I also am a psychology faculty member there and proud to serve on FEC.
So glad to have all of you here today. For our listeners, I want to be transparent. We started this year's theme with we really wanted to showcase the amazing work that our faculty are doing on all of our colleges. Because of this podcast, I have received emails and questions about faculty governance, and I'm no longer involved in any of that. I did 2 tours on the Senate, and I'm in rest mode now. So I met Matt and asked him if he could put some folks together, and here we are. And we are absolutely delighted that you are here. So our first area of discussion is around faculty affairs and governance. So we have the FEC structure, and the question that was submitted was, how does the Faculty Executive Council function, and how can individual faculty members get involved? It'll be a free-for-all.
That's a great question. So the FEC structure, of course, for those who don't know, there are 10 colleges, and each college has its own faculty senate, and those faculty senates are primarily managing the issues at their individual colleges, right? And then representatives from each of those colleges, and representation depends on faculty association membership, right? So Gateway, for example, has 1 representative this year. And I don't know, Brian, how many reps do you guys have?
We have 2 reps this year, and then we did a huge push for our Faculty Association membership last year, and so we will have 3 reps next year.
And so those reps, depending on the membership, come to FEC twice a month. And at FEC, some of that time is spent with updates from the various shared governance councils and representative committees. And then also we often have visitors who come and update us on various district projects. And then we do a lot of discussion, frankly, about ongoing issues. We just had a lot of conversation, for example, about CRE 101 and how to manage the shift to the new AJEC, right? And so when those issues come up district-wide, then FEC is there to deliberate and to provide direction. I don't know, is that sort of what you're asking for?
Yeah, I think so. I think faculties want to know the structure, but for me, my father is American Indian, and I grew up around our tribal affairs and tribal government around the original structure of democracy, not so much a Eurocentric top-down governance structure. And I think what people were asking is, are faculty encouraged to come talk to you all, or do you want them to talk to their faculty senator, who then goes to the faculty senate, and then the faculty senate goes to tell people how that workflow is your preference?
Let me talk about this for FEC first, and then I'd love to hear from the colleges. I think some of that depends on the leadership, right? Like who's in the seat at the time and what is their process. I can tell you that Stacy and I are both very, very open to hearing from individual faculty across the district. One of the things that we've done this year is we've been holding office hours at the different colleges, right? So we're going out to the college, we're making the drive, and sitting in a room for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Just come visit us, come talk to us about what's going on. Stacy and I had office hours just yesterday at Paradise Valley, and it was great. It was absolutely awesome. And you know, we only hear certain things that bubble up through FEC, but when you meet one-on-one with faculty, you find out what those issues are that didn't bubble up through FEC, right? So yesterday we heard from a probationary faculty member talking about the park and the IDP process, and I have a better perspective on those issues now because I engaged with that faculty member, right? So I'll have to tell you that attendance at those office hours has not been overwhelming. and that's okay. I mean, people are busy and we're only there for a couple of hours, and we all know about faculty teaching schedules, right? But yeah, we're making an effort to do that. And we're having more FEC lunch and learns at least twice a year. We're doing all faculty meetings, which is new. Right, we're really, Stacy and I both have really made an effort to make sure that it's a big tent, that it's an open house, right? And that's important to me.
Yeah, you know, when I got here 25 years ago, that's really was the culture. A lot of camaraderie among faculty, and I don't know how that drifted. Maybe COVID, you know, the online stuff, but I think it's very valuable, Matt, what you're doing by recreating that neighborhood, you know, where when you came here, it was just members of the faculty senate, you know. So it's kind of just the same old people at the table all the time. And to create a culture where faculty feel valued by attending those, also that they're heard and they're not just, well, here comes the, you know, complaining Joe guy or whatever. I think that's important, that we really do recreate democratic culture where people are heard. But I would like to hear from the colleges.
I'll add that at Australia Mountain Community College, I have heard from faculty that they feel a little bit removed from FEC, that they don't really understand who they are, what they do. And I will say that Matt and Stacy have done a phenomenal job being accessible. And from what I understand, that's new. I remember when Matt was running for FEC president-elect, and he actually came to our college virtually in a video and did a presentation and answered questions. And I understand that wasn't typical of candidates. And so I remember faculty being very appreciative of understanding, like, oh my goodness, these are humans. This is who they are. They're very approachable and I can talk to them. So at our college, typically you asked about the flow. What happens is we have individual faculty members and they will typically talk to their senator, as you alluded to, and then the senator will then bring whatever issues or questions they have to faculty senate. So that's typically how it goes. And then faculty senate will represent the issues, and then faculty senate, if the issue is robust, we'll bring it to FEC as needed. Well, with Matt and Stacy being so accessible, I think the culture is shifting. I'd like to think the culture is shifting, that faculty at least know that if they don't know what questions they have for Matt and Stacy just now, they know that they can reach out to them if they need to, and they don't have to necessarily go through this chain of, oh, I got to tell my chair, and then the chair tells the senator, and then the senator, right? So they know that they can go directly to them. So I really appreciate the culture shift that's happening, and perhaps it's getting back to what you alluded to.
I think for Glendale, relationships are super important. And so the relationships that our faculty have are really with our Senate. They're with our senators. Those are our colleagues. Those are the people we've done work with for years and years. What I'm finding is that most of my faculty will come directly to me or another FEC rep. Instead of going to the Senate as a whole, they're more likely to come to me and say, hey, I have this concern. I'm hearing about this at the district level. What's been said about it? What do you know about it? Can we talk more about this? Sometimes I do have other information that they don't have, and just sharing that information is enough for them. Just a heads up is enough. Sometimes the concerns that they're bringing are, as Linda said, robust, right? They're good concerns. They're issues that I think I might not have answers for, but I know where to go. And so those conversations will be a reach out to Matt or to Stacy Or, hey, can you throw this on the FEC agenda so we can talk about this? Just recently, that CRE 101 discussion caused a lot of consternation at Glendale, rightfully so. And Matt and Stacy were willing to sit down virtually Friday before spring break with a handful of our faculty to hear from them, to hear what our concerns were. And my faculty felt very heard, but the action from there, I think, was most important. So very frequently, I think faculty will speak up, and then nothing gets done and they feel unheard. But my faculty specifically felt like they were heard. And then the interactions that our FEC leadership, Matt, Stacy, and Ramona had with Dr. Britt did make a change. There were some differences that came back from our discussions. So I think that empowered faculty to feel like they could speak up. Although they didn't go to Matt and Stacy directly, they did come through me because that's where their relationship is. I'm happy to advocate for them.
And Chandler Gilbert, we've been maybe lucky that we just have a new president. And so we really took time to look at our shared governance model and kind of determine what it looks like for us. And we've really been trying to shift towards a representative democracy. But we do recognize that sometimes efficiency can get lost in a representative democracy. And for that reason, myself, Faculty Senate President, and our Faculty Senate Vice President / President-elect are very open for people coming straight to us and not going through their senators if it's a timely issue. But we really feel in that representative democracy, we want everyone to understand all the issues so that way we can make the most informed choices as a Senate. And so preference is, yes, let's go through straight through the Senate, through the division senators, so that way everyone understands the issue and that we can make a really good informed vote and a decision.
And how important is it for faculty to stay up on our RFP and RFA so that we know the content of our role here as residential faculty? Because you can't just make changes on a whim. We're trying to be sophisticated and professional and have policy and follow that policy that works for, well, that's the big question. Works for who? Right? We always say the students, because that's what we want to say. But these dynamics that exist between faculty, our administrations, and the governing board, those three primary structures, how do you feel that the FEC best navigates those waters?
So I heard two questions. The first question was, how important is it for individual faculty to know their residential faculty agreement? Of course, that's incredibly important. I don't know, but here's the truth, right? About that. You've got a faculty member who is really, really deep in innovating in their discipline, and their heart and their mind is consumed with that focus, right? And there are these faculty who want to say to somebody, please, you do this, I trust you, take care of it for me. I don't mind that. I don't resent it. My understanding that when the vote for what we called it the RFP at the time, when that was an all faculty vote, they had a hard time getting to 50%. And I don't think it's because the other 50% were disengaged, lazy, loafing faculty. I think that there are a bunch of our colleagues who are just very deep in their disciplines. And I don't mind that. How do we serve all of these folks, Eddie, I guess is the question I would like to answer, And then the second question, I might need some clarity around it. How we navigate the waters with the relationships between the governing board, the administration, and the faculty. To my mind, interest-based negotiation is a tremendous innovation in the district. I'm not sure that everybody agrees with that, and that's okay. I will tell you that it's not very sexy, right? It's a lot sexier to have an enemy and to be, fighting against the enemy in some adversarial battle of the wills. But having served on RFAC for a period of time, I have seen some incredible solutions to some incredibly difficult problems worked through interest-based negotiation. And what's more is that approach preserves relationship, and frankly, I think results in better policy. So that's at least a partial answer to your question. I think is that IBN is one of the approaches we have to navigating those waters.
Yeah, I think it's critical to our success and our mission that we all share, which is to deliver great education to our citizens of Maricopa County. It's just when you have elected officials on the governing board that have political agendas and we have a mission, like how do you, it seems the interest-based process, I think is, like I say, is critical, but it seems like I really like that. I've never heard that before, but I like that idea. It's not so sexy to work with people instead of make them your enemy. I love that. But, that seems very important, very critical. I guess my question is, how does the faculty balance that? Like, who, at the end of the day, who gets to say, this is the way we're going to do it? Is it the FEC? Is it the governing board? Is it the chancellor? Who does that when it comes down to, okay, this is what we're going to do?
I think it's probably a mix of both, right? Sometimes admin has some priorities and they will push something along. Sometimes it's faculty-led. I can speak for Glendale specifically that we have some faculty-led initiatives, some admin-led initiatives. If we're all speaking the same language using IBN, which our college has enacted and does a pretty good job of, then it doesn't really matter whose idea it was because everyone's got to come to the table. When one person is in charge and pushing an agenda without a structure in place like IBN, I think we get into really rough waters. I think it's risky, and faculty start to lose their voices in ways that we should have them. But I agree with Matt that IBN seems to preserve a lot of that, even if it's an administration-led process.
I would add, you mentioned governing board members and possibly politically motivated, and I'd say that's why it's important to get involved with the elections and make sure that we are supporting governing board members that are going to support faculty and the faculty working conditions, because faculty working conditions are student learning conditions. And if the faculty are not comfortable in their classroom, on their campuses, we're not going to be able to teach effectively. So it's very important to be involved in the election of our governing board members, talking to your community, talking to your families and friends, and making sure they understand who we support for the governing board. So that way, when we do have these interest-based negotiations, we know that our interests are starting a little bit more in the same place.
Again, Matt, around this, some of the faculty have asked these questions around, I guess, the phrasing power struggle or structure, however that works out. But what are the system models that embrace shared governance along with these other dynamics?
So I think that it's really important to remember, to Brian's point, that the governing board has statutory authority. And at the end of the day, they have that. That's in the law, right? The best that we can do is to have a culture that embraces shared governance. And so if we get a governing board in here that doesn't embrace shared governance, we have a culture that sort of rejects that, right? Like they come in and that's the virus that the body rejects because we've built it. And so I think actually shared governance structures within the district have improved in recent years under Chancellor Gonzalez. So you look at we have SGEC now, which is all of the presidents and the chancellor's direct reports and the faculty executive council president and president-elect. And that's the top of the shared governance structure. And then there are 4 groups under that. There's the Teaching, Learning, and Classroom Shared Governance Committee, the Student Access, Success, and Experience Shared Governance Committee, the Institutional Effectiveness Planning and Compliance Shared Governance Committee, and the Operational Human Resources, Facilities, and Technology Shared Governance Committee. And there is faculty representation on each of those smaller subcommittees, right? And these are the folks who are involved in these conversations in each of those 4 areas that filter up to SGEC. And so we've got established systemic representation in the most important decisions across the district, at the district level, right? And there are different shared governance models at each of the 10 colleges, but at the district level, I feel very confident about that. And then we also have shared governance structures in Compensation Advisory Council, in EBAC, which handles benefits, ABC, the Advisory Budget Council, RFACT, and then Common Pages, right? And so we have institutionalized faculty voices throughout the organization at the district level. And I think that it's more robust today than it was 20 years ago when I started here in Maricopa. Right? So that's good news in my mind. We have built a culture now of shared governance. And hopefully if we do ever end up with a governing board, and to Brian's point, we never should because our faculty should be involved in that, right? But if we ever do, we'll have a culture that insulates us against anything really terrible or nefarious.
When we look at some of the core pillars that residential faculty are interested in of their rights, protections, and compensation, can we speak to a little bit about academic freedom, tenure, and employment protections within the framework of due process?
Yeah, I could speak a little bit about one of the tenets, which is peer review. That's something that's key to our disciplines. We advocate for peer review in research review. We advocate for peer review in every space. And our current RFA integrates peer review in any sort of investigation or professional judgment issue with a peer review investigation. So that's not the way it used to be. But currently, if there is a faculty member whose professional judgment is called into account, if we're concerned about it, no longer is it a group of administrators who's making a decision about if they did it right or if they did it wrong. The tenet is peer review, and at this point, there are a number of colleagues throughout our district that would review the evidence of the issue, of the incident, and then come up with some sort of recommendation for that specific issue. And I think that's an improvement to the process. No longer is it punitive. It does use one of the tenets of education that we need, which is peer review.
You want to try academic freedom? Anybody?
So around 7 years ago, we had a sort of crisis in the district that I'm not going to get into right now. And the outcome of that was a settlement. And the outcome of the settlement was that the district committed to academic freedom. And this was new. So the provost at the time put together a team of people to create the Committee on Academic Freedom. And we spent a summer just doing sense making, right? Just learning as much as we could. We read a tremendous book called For the Common Good. I recommend that everybody go out and read this book, For the Common Good. It's on academic freedom. We went through case studies. We became, in a summer, as expert as we could in this subject. And our first charge was to create training for academic freedom across the district. So we did that. And now in the Faculty Learn Center, also in the Learn Center for our academic administrators, I believe, including VPSA and AS, there's mandatory academic freedom training, which is awesome. Right? And so we learn about the 4 pillars of academic freedom, teaching and learning, intramural speech, extramural speech, and research and publication. We learn about the importance of peer review to academic freedom and the importance of tenure to the preservation of academic freedom. This is the whole point of tenure. Tenure is not, well, you should have a lifetime appointment because you've got a degree. Tenure is, you should have job protections so that your academic freedom is not at risk, right? And so we've got this training, but now we also have a process when questions come up like, hey, has my academic freedom, have my academic freedom rights been violated? There's a request for assistance form online. You can just Google Maricopa academic freedom. It takes you to our website. There's a request for assistance form. You fill it out, and the committee reviews these requests, and we deliberate, and we reach conclusions. Our website also includes every conclusion, every finding that we've made. So you can read all about the 7-year history of academic freedom in Maricopa and the cases that we've heard. And it also includes some guidance papers. So if you're asking questions about regular and substantive interaction and its intersection with academic freedom, or if you have questions about the Disability Resources Office says I have to make these changes to my classroom, is that a violation of my academic freedom? You can learn all about that by reading the guidance papers on the CAF website as well. So an incredibly rich resource. And I think that because of CAF, we have been able to head off at the pass some pretty profound violations of academic freedom over the last 7 years, because we get a request for assistance and we get involved, right? And so we've been able to solve some pretty serious problems district-wide because of the creation of CAF. Right. So I love what Karina was saying about peer review investigations. That's directly related to academic freedom. Of course it is. And now we have, and so, right, the RFA already guarantees us academic freedom protections, but it can't possibly contain all of the definitional requirements that you would need to include if you were going to do a good job of that. And that's why we have a committee. Have my academic freedom rights been violated? Go to CAF, and then you'll know. So yeah, I'm very proud of that work. I think, and to the chancellor's credit, he not only did he set that up, it was not just a, what's the word I'm looking for here? It wasn't just a concession. Like, he committed institutional resources to that and has supported its success along the way.
I think it's evolved into something so necessary in our professional status. At the beginning of it, I remember peer review, PAR. I was sort of arguing against the first run of it because it came out of a case in Ohio, and it was structured around punitive instead of professional. Like lawyers, doctors have associations that they have professional standards and they have to do certain things. And I thought that's how we should approach each other, like really hold our professional standard up high, not just be looking for, to punish somebody. It did evolve over that. And I think that's kind of where we're at. When we say we want to hold each other accountable, we don't mean like, down at the playground or something, but we want people to grow and feel comfortable, like here with the new media lab. I mean, this took a lot of work. We were way ahead of the technology at the time, and to have those resources and the foundation to explore and build, that's the kind of peer review I think people were looking for. But by the time it gets to where you're at, it's a case. Is there different, phases of this?
I can speak a little bit to probationary faculty and how that works. So I sit on the park review. So I basically help to review the work of probationary faculty to ensure that they're doing what their contract states and all the pillars of success. And I will say that even in that review, faculty are responsible for teaching, service, and professional development. And as I'm reviewing their statements that they have to write on that every year, if there are many faculty who are doing a tremendous job with that, but that if there are faculty who are having challenges, right, they're on probation. So one might think that, that just means that you're not qualified. But what I love about what our college and our district does is that it's exactly what you're saying, is that they provide assistance and support and mentoring, and they are assigned an entire team that really helps them reach their success. I love the fact that our college and the way that our system is built, that we believe in our hires. We hired them because we believe that they have the professional credentials and potential to do an amazing job. And if there are challenges, it's not punitive, at least not right away, right? It's not immediately punitive. The challenges are really met with a tremendous amount of support, peer review support, also support from their chair, support from others. And so in that way, we're supporting our probationary faculty to ensure that they're successful.
Yeah, that's the culture we want. Brian, as a part of the core pillars, faculty are wanting to know about compensation, COLA increases, benefits. Can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, so the FEC has faculty representation on the Employee Benefits Advisory Committee, not council, Employee Benefits Advisory Committee. And when they bring stuff back to the FEC and we discuss what's going on and what's happening in that group and in the direction they're headed, we often have to come up with plans for how to maybe counter some changes in our benefits that, won't necessarily benefit most faculty. It might actually hurt some faculty. And over the past year, we know that we've got some budget constraints at the district, and benefits are really expensive these days. And we don't want to lose any of our health insurance. We don't want our health insurance get any worse. And our representatives on that committee do a great job of pushing back anytime something's going to be taken away. And as far as compensation is concerned, when I started in the district, we weren't getting, it was 10 years ago, we weren't getting steps, we weren't getting COLAs. And one of the reasons I took the job was I saw a sheet that had steps on it. And I was like, oh, this is how this works. I can, get to a decent salary eventually. And we weren't getting those steps or COLAs. Recently, we have had faculty go into administrative positions at the district to kind of work on these situations. And over the past couple of years, we've got a salary plan now that includes COLAs, that includes steps in a sustainable sort of way so that we can continue to afford them in the future. And that's because of the work we do as faculty advocating for everyone. And so I think it's very important to recognize that we can go to the district and have temporary positions to help determine policy that's really going to help faculty.
Yeah, thank you. I hope everybody appreciates that work because that benefits all of us as a whole. And
if I could just add to that,
yeah.
Not only are our faculty doing this work and sitting on these committees to ensure these decisions are being made, I would say that there is a great bit of transparency that's also happening. So that work is being done, but it's not just being done in a vacuum. We just trust our representatives to do the work. The representatives are coming back and reporting that to the FEC. They're reporting that to senators, they're reporting that to faculty senate presidents, who are then reporting it to senators, of course, and the faculty at large. And so everyone is aware of what's happening in real time, so to speak. So when decisions are being made, it's being communicated, and then faculty then have an opportunity to say, well, had you considered this, or we'd like to communicate this, and then that's going back to the rep. And so there's this really beautiful cycle of transparency and communication that's happening that I appreciate.
What about the area of expertise around this? Because I've always thought it was odd that the reading teacher was negotiating my union contract. Shouldn't we have a professional, shouldn't somebody that does this know? You know what I mean? Do we have that kind of expertise at the table?
I think having the right people in the right roles is crucial. It's crucial, right? And so part of that is knowing who's an expert on that topic and knowing who fits in that space. So I think about the ABC, the Budget Council. That is not my space. That is not a space I should be in. But we have faculty who have training in economics who are in that space. And that's a great space for him to be in. And I trust that he's an expert in that area, right? And so I think that we have to be really key about who's in the space. It's not enough to just have representation, but to have the right person representing it is important. I think it's important.
So I think when people think about faculty association membership, they think about access to an attorney in personal terms. If I get into trouble, I have access to an attorney, right? Awesome. But faculty association dues collectively pay for collective access to that attorney. And so we actually routinely have analysis of the RFA from legal counsel, because faculty association member dues pay for that counsel, right? And so we don't have professional negotiators at the table, but we have access to professionals who can provide us with guidance. And I can't tell you like how incredibly important that has been over the years.
Well, yeah, and they just have to go by the policy.
Well, I'm talking about in negotiations, right? Like in the RFACT space, right? We have a legal perspective on the policy that exists and on the policy that's being written, so that so that it's better informed.
So can you all tell me, like, if a faculty needs to talk to a legal expert and they're paying dues for that privilege or right, how does that work? Can someone explain? So somebody out there, faculty, would need to know this.
So our faculty association members do have, one of the benefits is access to our faculty attorney. The way they would go about doing that is by filling out a form on our website and contacting their faculty senate president. And that faculty senate president would then discuss the request with the rest of the faculty senate presidents in the district. We call that Council of Presidents, to get access that is paid to the attorney. So it's, we have those attorneys on retainer, and to make sure that the money is being spent responsibly, there's kind of some oversight there. Now, every faculty association member also does have access to the attorney for a free hour, and it does not need to go through a faculty senate president. And so if they wanted to kind of bypass the faculty senate president or the council of presidents, they could access that hour directly to discuss anything that they feel is important without anyone's approval. But because we have to be responsible with association money and dues that everyone's paying, there has to be some level of oversight as to what issues get paid through the faculty association.
Even a little bit beyond that, when a faculty member has an issue and they need representation from a lawyer, that's going to be at the college level, maybe an employment issue or something like that. And the faculty senate president is going to be the one that's going to be not legally representing them, but being a colleague in the room to make sure that policy is being followed with the administration and whatnot. And oftentimes in that council of presidents, we're discussing these issues. And as a faculty senate president, I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything and how to get through some of these situations. And so that council of presidents, we brainstorm. We help the faculty senate president at the college who has a faculty member who has an issue, help them brainstorm. How can we help that faculty member? How can we get through this situation in addition to getting the legal representation?
I think the question that the faculty had was around confidentiality. Like, I got to go around and tell everybody, I don't want to do that. So that was the biggest concern I think the faculty person had.
I've sat on Council of Presidents for a number of years at this point, and I would argue that it's a very confidential group. Names actually are not even brought up to the Council of Presidents. So besides the faculty senate president and the person who sent the request, names aren't even used. So if I, as Glendale's faculty senate president, brought up a request for legal assistance, Brian or Linda would not even know which faculty member I was discussing. We try to keep it as anonymous as possible by giving just enough information to help make a good decision. And I think that the trust in your faculty senate president rep, to keep that is really sacred. I would never want my faculty to think that I was sharing that outside of that space.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think that's how's the search going for the chancellor? Do we have any breaking news? Do we have any names of who's applied?
Well, unfortunately, this is not going to be a rich discussion because the chancellor's search committee, of course, is sworn to secrecy, right? And so I can't tell you much about it, except to say that it is happening, that it's on a pretty aggressive timeline, and that we are on track to meet those timeline goals. I think that I'm safe saying those things. So you might cut that in post.
Yeah. Hey, is AI going to replace faculty?
Well, I hope not. I think there's no mistaking that AI is a tremendous form of technology that is just going to continue to get better and smarter. That said, in my opinion, there's nothing that can ever replace humans. The human compassion and the personal touch that actual human beings give to teaching. Now, AI, of course, we know that generative AI can get to know you, right, and flatter you and do wonderful things. But as far as being transparent and having a genuine relationship with students and being a straight shooter, I think that faculty have a very unique role in that way. I think that there are some students who will always want a human faculty member, a human professor, to have a human connection. And I don't think there's anything that can replace that. So I would say, at least in the short term, our jobs are safe. There's enough demand for what we do and what we offer as human beings, and we'll see what the future holds.
We're going to actually show you guys some stuff after this podcast that we've developed in here that I think you'll really, really like.
Well, I can say a little bit more about the AI question from sort of the FEC perspective. Maricopa created the AI Resource Center. This emerged out of the AI task force that was developed 3 years ago. And we have a faculty tri-chair leading the AI Resource Center. That we insisted on that, of course, because there are so many teaching and learning questions related to this technology, right? And then the Resource Center has subgroups, and there will be, if not chairs, faculty representation on each of those subgroups as well. And one of those, of course, is teaching and learning, and of course, that will be a faculty chair. But some of the others have to do with AI stuff that faculty don't necessarily think too much about, right? Like security questions. There are so many security questions, and this is where shared governance is so important, right? Because we come at this question, faculty, with the teaching and learning at the forefront of our minds, and we want to control that conversation. But then you meet with somebody from IT and they're like, well, that's cool, but what about all of these security questions that frankly I don't know anything about, right? Or very little anyway. And then also when we're getting into like AI note takers for meetings, et cetera, there are all sorts of legal questions that come up as well, right? And so that shared governance in how to respond to the development of AI is huge. This stuff scares the hell out of me. I don't know if you all have heard of Einstein. This is an AI tool, an agentic AI that will simply complete the Canvas course for the student. All the student has to do is say, go get me an A in this class, and the AI will go and get the student an A in the class. This is, to my mind, an existential threat to higher education, because when a student graduates with a degree, that degree represents that the student has learned something and can apply that knowledge, right? That's what it means to employers and family and friends, right? Like that's what a degree means. And so if the degree no longer means that, right? If the student simply paid Einstein to take these classes, then our product, not that I like using that language to talk about what we do, but our product is worthless. And so how will higher education respond to this? And I think it's a fascinating time to be alive. I think it's frightening, but also like, oh my gosh, this is really, really interesting.
Well, you're going to love the product that this gentleman here has designed. Keegan was officially diagnosed as a genius about 6 years old. He is a master of all this stuff, and we're going to show you something he created called Sherlock Holmes to catch. What was your guy? What was the name?
Einstein.
Yeah, so he's originally invented an app that will catch Einstein in the paper.
I'd like to follow up with what Linda said, that AI is probably not going to replace faculty.
No.
But I think it's the best faculty are going to be the ones who learn how to use AI ethically. Title II accessibility is a big push right now, making sure all of our materials online are digitally accessible. I don't know anything about web development. I'm a chemist, but I was able to use Claude to pull the HTML from my very bare bones, ugly Canvas courses, just put the HTML right into Claude and say, hey, can you fix this to the WCAG 2.1 AA standards, only using Canvas LMS style inline CSS? Comes out perfect. And all I had to do is paste that back into my Canvas site. It's my material, but now it's all perfectly accessible and organized greatly. And so I think AI will not replace faculty, but some of the most successful faculty are going to be the ones who figure out how to use it ethically.
Yeah, we call that tidying up.
I think Brian and Linda are right that the faculty need to evolve too.
Absolutely.
Right?
Mhm.
That's what needs to happen. And so to be successful and to not be replaced, we got to get on board. And
That's
that
right.
doesn't mean allowing students to have free access to all AI. It means figuring out how to integrate AI into your course appropriately in an ethical way that does a good job of still being able to figure out what these kids know by the time they're done with your class.
Yeah. No, I love AI, and I'm not afraid of it in here. We teach it. We teach them how to use it in an ethical way and really just keep reinforcing it's a tool. It's a tool. And the skill is that you're developing intellectually is understanding what the next right question is. So we always give our guests the last word. So we're going to go around the table. Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for being here. It lifts me to be around smart people. I love the work that you're doing. I appreciate the work that you're doing. And definitely appreciate that you took the time to come here and talk to us. As we'll go around the table, the final question will be, what do you think is the most important obstacle that you have to overcome this year in your role as a faculty representative?
Awesome question. So a few weeks ago, I was here at Mesa Community College for a civic engagement event. And it was Brian Dilley was involved in some way. I don't know if he was the host that evening, the organizer, but he was on the stage, and he was talking about what it takes to engage effectively in civic work. And he said, well, there are really two qualities that you need to possess. The first is humility. And he defined it. I liked his definition. He said, humility is saying to yourself, I'm often right, but I might not be right this time. I like that because I am often right. But remembering that I might not be right this time. And then the second quality was to assume goodwill until you're proven otherwise, right? Until you're proven incorrect. So I love that because I want to take these two things into all of my interactions with my faculty colleagues around the district in the year ahead of me. And I also hope that my faculty colleagues can embrace these qualities as well, right? Faculty leadership is generally pretty reasonable. Ramona and Stacy, I think, have modeled open-mindedness and engagement, something that I hope to perpetuate. And so it's that. I think the part of it is changing the faculty culture so that we're all working collectively, often disagreeing. We were talking about this before we started recording, right? Like disagreement is really healthy. Personally, I love it when I have to change my mind. I do. Like that's a beautiful moment for me when somebody presents evidence that disproves my beliefs, assumptions, attitudes, right? I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Thank you. Like I want that. I want that for our faculty. I want that for our culture. So yeah, I don't know if that's answering the question. I think it comes close.
I'll build off a little bit about what Matt was saying with the generosity and humility and add empathy to that. We really need to recognize that in our district, we just don't have enough resources, period. And if we're empathetic to the other faculty and their concerns or challenges, And then we recognize that if we just started with interests, I've been really interested in our interest-based negotiation lately. I think it helps us get to more powerful solutions that help everybody. And we too often come to the table with solutions, our solution, because it'll work for us. And that stymies a lot of progress. And I think if we build on that generosity, that humility and empathy for our fellow colleagues, we can make a lot greater movements.
Just making some notes. And so, yeah, I'd like to also extend what Matt was talking about regarding engagement. I think one of the biggest obstacles of the FA is to communicate the importance of engagement, recognizing that for most faculty, there are generally two camps. And I think Matt alluded to this earlier. So there's one camp generally that's so engaged in their scholarship, they don't have the bandwidth to be as active when it comes to FEC issues or issues at a level that's higher than their college, right? And then you have the camp that does have the bandwidth and or the interest to lead at a district level or be a part of FEC or become a part of Faculty Senate and that. So I think for the first camp, it's important for them to engage in a way that they trust their college leaders, that they are really thoughtful in voting when it comes to the Faculty Senate president. And that person, if that person is going to represent their interests, especially represent them when they're going through, legal troubles potentially, that they need to be able to really trust that decision. So voting, obviously, voting on every level, but at the college level, making sure they participate in voting. And for the Faculty Senate president, reading those letters of interest, getting to know who their FSP is, getting to know who their senator is. And if that's all they have regarding bandwidth, then okay, then they've at least put their trust in that representative. And if they have the bandwidth to be involved at a higher level, then do that. But I think that one of the biggest threats to what we have as an FA is when faculty are not able to engage in either of those ways. And so I would say one of the biggest obstacles is really communicating the importance of belonging to one of two of those camps.
So Linda and I are in complete agreement, and she stole my thunder a little bit, but that's okay.
That's good. That's a good.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, psychologist.
That's it. But I would say that our faculty are tired. We're tired. For the last 6 years, there has been thing after thing lobbed at us, right? So we start with COVID and having to shift all of our practices to be online. We talk about all the changes in leadership in the district, right? We talk about AI and what that's kind of taken us. We talk about the accessibility changes that we have. And I think most faculty are just tired. And what they have is to give to their students, which has to come first. But what they don't have anymore is to give to the faculty group as a whole. And so that's what falls off. And I think it is our challenge to keep those faculty as engaged as possible while they're just tired. And so I think that's a struggle. I think that we in this space have to consistently find time to not be tired and consistently find time to continue and to figure out how to energize our faculty to do the same and to engage in this process and to stay up on what's going on with the district and to stay, attached to their faculty colleagues is important.
Excellent. I didn't come to teaching until I was 40 years old. And during that time, I worked in business and did certain kinds of things. And a very successful man told me one day when I was sort of complaining about certain things, he said, if you don't have problems, you don't have a business. And that really settled me, like if we don't have problems, we're so to look at those as differently. But I agree with you all. I think trying to make teaching in the culture and the environment in the space that we teach more, thinking joyful, but you know what I mean, more exciting, or you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like get
Positive energy.
Yeah, positive, like the tiredness, like it should, these jobs are hard when you're teaching 5 and 6 classes face to face day after day. But how do we reinvigorate our community, our learning
Mhm.
community. And I think one of the most important issues is trust. You know, my grandpa used to say, yeah, I mean, but are you trustworthy? You know, do we trust people who are
That's
not
very
trustworthy?
important.
And
Mhm.
we've been through, you know, we've seen it all. You know, people are here for their own personal gain, or they don't really care about the community so much. And, you know, then we've seen people, you know, the whole spectrum is out there. But what's most important is that we start with trusting our leaders and start with trusting each other. And I just think faculty, we have to stick together, you know, and we have to be like, I work with Dr. Dilly a lot. He's one of my favorite people. And it's true. You know what I mean? Like, let's start with the premise of that you know, you're doing what's right by all of us. That's the best place to Matt, I see you want to say something.
Yeah, I just love that. I not the part about trusting your leaders, but about the leaders being trustworthy, right?
That.
I sit at the FEC table and I look around that room. It's not, I mean, I look around the Zoom call, I guess. And
Do we still have the building? or-
we do, but not for much longer.
Okay. That was another question.
Yeah. No, that vote was overwhelmingly in support of selling the building. So we will not be holding on to. But yeah, I look around that room and I see people who are genuinely engaged in sort of selfless leadership. And I look at Stacy and Ramona. I mean, I don't know if people know, but you can make more money teaching full overload than you can make as faculty association president these days, just because of the way that our bylaws are written. It's not something you do for the money. It's something you do out of a sincere desire to serve. And I would love the opportunity to show everybody what I see when I look around that table, which is faculty leaders who are genuinely committed to principles that faculty generally share and to working hard for faculty rights and benefit. And I'm so impressed by my colleagues, and I want everybody to see what I see.
Wonderful. Again, I want to thank you all for being here. In my father's language, we say, hawa, aya ski, Webb da wato, aya galia I liga loe che I gigego ensan I dona de gohan I hawa. Take care of each other out there. We are all we have.